Good morning. Today we are going to discuss inheritance, basics of inheritance as far as Java is concerned. Java is an object-oriented programming, and one of the most important properties of object-oriented programming is inheritance. Inheriting means, for example, suppose that you have a class called box. You have a class called box. A class is this, and suppose that properties of boxes, it is having width, height and length, and it can return the volume. So this is the base class. Here you are having this box, and that box is having height, width and length, and is having a method which returns volume of the box. Now we can write a program for instantiating an object of type box, and we can retrieve the volume of that. Okay. Now box is a class, and now if you are going to add one more property to this box, which is, that means you have to include all the properties or inherit all the properties of boxes, and you are going to include a new property also, that which is the weight of the box. Suppose that you are going to include weight of the box also as a parameter or property of a particular box. Here we have a class box, and the basic properties of this box is width, height and length, and it can return volume as well. Okay. Now you are going to have a new box which is also having its weight. Okay. Now I am going to have a box called box weight. Box weight means a box with weight. A box with weight, that means that is inheriting all the properties of this box. That means this box is having weight also. So this box weight means a box with weight property also. So in that case, all the properties of this box plus your new property. That means here I am going to have class box weight extends box. That means actually we are inheriting all the properties of box, plus now we are going to have, what is that? Here int, say weight. Okay. Now box weight class means box weight is a class which is having all the properties of box plus one more property which is weight. Okay, that means here box is inheriting. That means here this is the property, and this is box weight. Box weight. That means here this is a class box, and if an object of type box is having these three properties and it can return its volume. Here box weight is it is a subclass. This is the base class and this is the subclass. And class box is base class and this is the subclass of box. And this box weight is inheriting all the properties of box plus a new attribute or new property. So that's all about a subclass. And suppose that if you want to add color also to this, and a box with width, height, length and weight, you have to include color also. So we are going to have class box weight color. That means here you are having a box with weight and color. That means extends. If you are inheriting from this then you have to include only color. If you are inheriting this, you have to add weight and color. So I am going to inherit from this box weight extends box weight here you are going to include int say color. Now what is this? The base class is box and that base class is having three properties: length, width and height. And you have included one more property, and for that you have created another class which is box weight, a box with weight. And here this is box with weight and color. That means here we are inheriting box, this is box weight, and you are going to create another subclass which is box weight color. Okay, so this is the base class and this is the subclass and this is the another subclass. This is inheriting all the properties of this. This is inheriting all the properties of this. That means all the property of box plus some additional features for box weight, and all the properties of box weight plus some more features for this box weight color. Okay, so in general we can have, that means instead of this I am going to have here capital A is the base class, B is the subclass and C is another subclass. C is a subclass of B and B is a subclass of A, and A is not inheriting from any other class, so this is the base class. So you can have a multi-level hierarchy. That means we can have a multi-level hierarchy. That means A from B to C. From C you can create another subclass. From D you can create another class to any extent. So this is a basics of inheritance. That means if you have a base class, we can inherit it. That means you have to include one more property to that base class. You can create a new class inheriting all the properties of base class plus some additional features you can add. Okay, so that's all about class. So in Java, for creating a subclass, you have to use this extends keyword. Extends, that means class box weight extends box means here box weight is subclass of box, and box weight extends box weight means box weight color is an extended is a subclass of box weight, like that. And now we are going to have another property. That means this is the way. That means when we are doing some or when we are discussing some examples from the textbook, we thorough with that. We'll discuss the examples in the examples from the textbook. Okay. Now here we are going to discuss member access, public or private. There are two types. Now at this point in time we are going to discuss only two access variables which are private and public. One more is there that we'll discuss later. So public in the sense here, unless you have any other, that means here we don't have any member access function, member access keywords here. You can have public as well as private. That means you can have public in height, private in length, etc. That means if if nothing is specified here, that will be treated as public. That means here it will be height, width and length. These three are public access variables. That means public access variables are inherited by its sibling or its child. This is the child or this is the parent of this and this is the child of this. That means this is the subclass and this is the parent class or base class, and this is inheriting all the public methods or public variables of this method. Here we don't have any access specifier. All of them are not having any access specifier, so that will be treated as public. That means all the public variables as well as public member functions are accessible from its subclass. That means here you can use int weight is equal to something, then width is equal to something. So if you have a statement like width is equal to 10, what will happen? Nothing wrong, because here box weight is extending the property of box, and here all of the variables which are defined here are accessible here. Here also you can access all the variables which are defined here. You should note that only public variables can be accessed. Here these are all public. Suppose that you are defining this as private variables, and I am going to define this as private. So length only I am going to declare as private. In this case, this length cannot be accessed here. That means here, suppose that in the subclass, suppose that you have a statement like, say, length is equal to 20. What will happen? This is an unknown variable. That means here box weight is an extension of box, means this is inheriting the properties of box, but it is not inheriting its private variables. That means private int length means length is not accessible from its subclass. Why? It's a private variable to the class box. That means private variables are not inherited by the subclass. If you want to use that, you have to create a function. Here you have to use some function, and using that function only you can access that variable. You cannot directly access that variable. Okay, so private variables are under the ownership of that class, and subclasses are not allowed to use that private variables. Okay. Private methods can also be there. If you have a private method, private methods also not inherited. That means a subclass cannot access private variables and private methods. Okay. If you have public variables, that means unless you define anything, here suppose that you don't have any access qualifier, then what will happen? All this will be treated as public. So you don't have, that means default is public. Default is public, and these are all public variables, and this is a public method, and all this can be accessed from anywhere. That means from subclass or subclass to any level can access these variables. That means when you are creating this box weight include all the properties or all the variables which you have defined in box. But if you have defined this as private, what will happen? It is not accessible to its subclass. So that's all about member access. And now superclass variable references subclass object. So that we'll discuss later. Then super keyword. Super means from this subclass, if you want to access its parent variable, this is a subclass, and this is inheriting all the properties of this. And suppose that you can override this like this. For example, suppose that here again you have, say, int width. That means here in the base class you have a variable called width, and the subclass also we are going to have a variable called width. And now we are going to create an object of box weight, and in that box weight, if you are using width, what will happen? It is referencing only this only. That means here, suppose that here you have a variable A, B and C. These are the variables in A. Suppose that you have here C, D and E. Suppose these are variables. Here you have A, B, C, and here you have C, D, E. That means when you are creating an object, say B equal to new B, what will happen? an object of type B is created. An object of type B is created, and when you are referencing this B dot C is equal to 10. Now my question is whether it will update this one or this one. This is having C and this also is having C. But B dot C, you have created B, and B is inheriting all the properties of parent. But in this case, here B dot C is equal to 10. It is updating only. That means preference will be given to its variable. That means B dot C is equal to 10 means this will become 10, not this. If you want to reference this, you have to use B dot super dot C. That means from this object, if you use this super means it is referencing its parent. Super means it is referencing its super class. Okay, so that's all about super. Then creating multi-level hierarchy I told you, and when constructors are called. That means here, as I told you, what is a constructor? Constructor is a method. That means here if you want to have a constructor, this is a parameterless constructor box. So here box, and in this we have a box constructor. Whenever you are creating an object of type box, then automatically this will be called. This is called. That means if you are creating an object of type box, box B equal to new box. If you are creating a new box, what will happen? Then automatically this box, or after creating this box, the constructor for this is constructor. That means it is a method with the same name as your class name, and it is not returning anything. Here box, that means here nothing I have returned. That means this is a parameterless constructor box, and when you are creating a box B, what will happen? Then after this box object is created, in that you have width, height and length. Okay, then suppose that in this box you are going to initialize this as length equal to -1, width equal to -1, height equal to -1. What will happen? Then after creating this box, now you have created a box B, and B is pointing to this object. And now after that, that box constructor is executed. When you are executing this constructor, what will happen? Length equal to this equal to -1, this equal to -1, and this is equal to -1. Okay. Now, if you are having a parameters, that means all these parameters are available. I am going to have a new constructor box. Here we are passing int A, int B, int C, and here I am going to have length equal to A, width equal to B, height equal to C. What will happen? That means this is the box class, and here this is the parameterless constructor, and this is a constructor which is having parameters. That means here we are going to pass 3 integer values, and once these 3 integer values are passed, now instead of creating an empty box like this, if you are creating a box B like this, that will be initialized with -1, -1 and -1. I am going to have a new box say C is equal to new box new box, say 1, 2, 3, what will happen? 1, 2, 3. Then after creating an object of type C, here you have width, height, length. Then what will happen? Length is equal to A. That means you are passing 1. Length becomes 1. Width is equal to B. Width is equal to B means the parameter into B means we have passed 2. That means width is equal to 2 and height is 3. That means these parameters are initialized. Okay. So this is the way constructors are called. Then that is the use of constructors. And when constructors are called, here if you are using A, B and C, these are 3 classes. C is the subclass of B, B is the subclass of A. And now suppose that A is having A as the constructor, B is having B as the constructor, and C is having C. And suppose that now we have created an object of type C. Then initially this is, you are going to have a C object equal to new C. That is why here we are creating an object of type C. Now C object is an object, and when this object is instantiated, definitely the call to or constructor for C is executed. So before that constructor of B is executed, and before that constructor of A has to be executed. That means if you are having a hierarchy like this, A is the base class, B is the subclass of A, and C is the subclass of B. Then an object of type C is created. Initially the constructor of A is executed, thereafter constructor of B, and after that constructor of C is executed.